Hi guys. If you don't know me, my name is Brianne. I have a CPA, a Master's of Accounting, and I've worked in many different parts of accounting, including public practice, valuations, and audit. And today I'm going to teach you guys how to make a simple AI agent. Now, before I get started, there's one video that when I was first starting out, I really thought was incredibly useful. So if you want more information, and that has also helped me create the content for this video, so I want to give a shout out. It's called Building AI Agents That Actually Work, full course. Okay, you guys, the next thing I want to show you guys is all the components of an AI agent. So when we're thinking in terms of an AI agent, which the YouTube video I mentioned earlier, this is where I really got the insight to showcase how an AI agent works. It's really made up of 4 components. So it's made up of the context. So the context, in terms of an AI agent, they speak in terms of markdown folders. So within Claude, there's going to be a claude.md file and a memory.md file. And then when we think of creating skills for these agents, those are also saved as markdown files. And the skills kind of enhance this context within this environment. Okay, so then the next thing we have here is tools. So tools could be things like your external connections to things like Gmail or whatever you're connecting to, like Higgsfield, and that would be within the realm of MCPs. Now, different Claude harnesses, different harnesses, which I'm going to touch on later, support different MCPs. Now, MCPs are basically just this bridge between the harness that you're working in and the overall environment that you've created that AI agent in and that external tool so that they can talk to each other and so that you can create an agent that effectively uses those external tools. Now, the next component of an agent is going to be what we're going to call the self-improving loop. Now, the self-improving loop is how an agent learns from itself and improves over time to achieve your stated goal. And then the last component we have here is the LLM. Now, the LLM is kind of like the raw brain. So you can think of it in terms of when you're hiring a new employee, they're going to have some context for their job before they come in. So with an LLM, that's the back-end training that all these companies have done to give this AI agent some sort of context before you start contextually engineering to make this agent achieve its stated goal. Now, one thing I want to say about an AI agent is that it operates within this realm of an AI harness. So an AI harness could be something like Claude Cowork, Claude Code, ChatGPT, Codex, anything like that. Those are AI harnesses that you use to orchestrate this entire environment for this AI agent. I work a lot within Claude Cowork for agents because it's very user-friendly. Because I come from a finance and accounting background, and it really shows the self-improving loop and how these agents pull in these different components to orchestrate a result. Now, one thing I really want to talk about when we're thinking in terms of AI agents, they really operate on probabilities. So LLMs are trained to take information and put it into vectors, which then predict the next likely output. Where AI agents may not work as well is when you're doing something that has a right or wrong answer. So that's when you might want to orchestrate a workflow. So one workflow that I'm creating right now is an intake form for my company. So let's just kind of walk this through to show how an AI agent could actually operate within a workflow. So let's say I have an intake form. Now the intake form then gets sent to me on the back end. And then I might have an AI agent that goes and reads my context to determine the best way to respond to that client. And then after that, it's then a yes or no, are we actually going to email that client? And that becomes more of a deterministic workflow output. So agents can work within your workflows, but you really need to understand the probability versus the yes or no answer to be able to orchestrate these really well. Okay, you guys. So now what I want to do is I want to go through how to build out this AI agent within Claude Cowork. So I'm working within Claude Cowork, which is my AI harness that is going to help me orchestrate the entire environment for my AI agent. Now I've just created this folder that I actually have saved on a Google Drive. And again, you guys, privacy, confidentiality, data protection, I'm not going to be going through that. And the onus again is on you guys for how you save that and protect your own data. Okay, so I have this new folder and I'm going to call it Marketing Manager. Okay. And this is just within my pilot and my education program within my own company. So I just create a pilot company for you guys. And if you watch my Obsidian video, I'm actually just going to build on that example of this being a pet retailer. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is the first thing I want to orchestrate is the context folders. Okay. So some files don't actually necessarily, or some agents don't need a Claude MD file or a memory.md file. So what you're really trying to consider here is you want to reduce the risk of hallucination and of drift. So when I say that, hallucinations being the confidently wrong answer, drift being that the agent kind of loses context or will produce kind of a wrong answer because the environment isn't quite orchestrated right. So you only want to give this agent information that it needs to complete whatever tasks you want it to complete. So you kind of have to be strategic about this. Now, in terms of my marketing manager, I might just make a couple really small context files so it knows who it is, because I'm going to have it do a couple different tasks. So that kind of helps it ground itself in just who it is and how that relates to fulfilling a bunch of different tasks. If you're getting an agent who's just going to be doing one task, it might not be worth creating a Claude MD file or a memory.md file. So when I talk in terms of Claude MD file versus memory.md file, the Claude MD file really should just be telling the agent who it is. And the memory.md file, you're going to want to use to help the agent do almost that like self-improving loop where it learns from past mistakes and things like that. So it can update its memory.md file to have some sort of vault where it keeps those lessons learned. Okay, so I'm going to just type in I want to create a Claude.md file and a memory.md file. This agent is the marketing manager. And I'm just going to say responsible for responding to, or for collecting and responding to client emails. So maybe it should be called something else rather than marketing manager, but this is just an example. So then what I want to say is, please update the memory.md file so that every time it learns something new, it will update and store that in memory.md file. Please keep the Claude.md file and the memory.md file short to reduce bloat. Okay, so I'm just going to give this to the harness right now, and we're just going to see what it produces, and then we can talk about how you're going to iterate that. I can already tell you right now, I haven't given it enough information to know how it's going to know whether it's a reflection point or not in the memory.md file. So I find the best process for that is just kind of working with the agent and updating it as you go. It's almost like you're onboarding an employee. So what you really just want to do, the best way to kind of build out these agents is just kind of starting and then fumbling and falling a little bit. Okay, so this is going to take some time to load, so I'm just going to pause here. Okay, you guys, so now I want to show you the Claude.md file and the memory file that was made after we gave it that prompt. So the instructions here, marketing manager. So it identifies in the Claude.md file the role and the responsibilities, the voice. The voice will be really helpful because I'm actually going to get this agent to draft emails. And then this is really important here as well. It tells us that every time it does a task, anything you learn, something that's durable, to send it to the memory file and to remove anything outdated to avoid bloat. Okay, so this is really nice and short, which is what we want and gets to the point of the information we need. Now the memory.md file, it says persistent notes for the marketing manager. And then it says one line entries as you learn, please go in and update those, and then get rid of stale items. So now you can see it actually has operationalized those 4 different components of what's going to be important that should be put into the memory file for future learning. And this is just going to enhance the outputs that we're going to get from this agent. So the next thing that I want to go through is how to connect this agent to my Gmail account. So I've actually just made a pretend customer service Gmail account for this agent. So if you go to customize here, and I actually have quite a few tools connected here, and you go to connectors, these are what is called the MCP tools that connect to the external sources. So really what those are is it's just a bridge between working in the harness and those external sources so that the two can speak together. Okay, so you can see here I've connected Gmail, and I've also connected the Google Calendar, because what I really want to get this agent to do is I want it to read for customer emails. And then for anything where it's like a customer wants to meet over a call, I then want it to look at my Google Calendar and recommend an email that I can send back to that client to coordinate a time to meet. So this process and this workflow can be dependent on whatever your business is and how you best serve your clients, and it can be adjusted as needed. And really, as you're working with these agents, it's going to take some time before you kind of get it exactly where you want it to be. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, the next thing that we're going to do is called building out a skill that kind of orchestrates that workflow we're talking about. So the best thing to do here is you're going to build out your skill.md file. Now, when we're thinking about a skill.md file, it's really just enhancing that ecosystem. So it's telling this agent how to work within that environment, and they are incredibly important. And I would say some agents, when we were talking about you may not need the Claude.md or the memory.md file, you're always going to want a skill.md file, because it's like when you hire an employee, let's say you're teaching them how to be a dishwasher, those procedures that they need to follow is basically what a skill is. And the skill will improve over time, just as an employee will get better and better at their job as they get started within their work environment. Okay, so what I'm gonna say to this agent, I'm just gonna tell it what to do. So it's kind of like if you're teaching someone how to wash dishes, you're just gonna tell them how to do that. And that is going to then get embedded in their brain, where that's gonna become a skill in their head. And it's the same thing here. I'm just gonna walk it through the process, and then I'm gonna ask it to build out that skill afterwards. Okay, so what I'm gonna say to the agent is, I want you to scan my Gmail for client emails where they want to meet. Okay, so let's just say that. And let's see what it pulls back. And I'm just gonna pause it while we're waiting. Okay, you guys, so here is the email draft. So you can see it says, thank you for reaching out. I'm sorry to hear the product hasn't met your expectations. And then the tone seems to be pretty consistent with the context folder, so that's great. And then it suggested a time. So this was from scraping my Google Calendar and making sure that fit my calendar. And then it's saying, shall we plan this time, and go ahead and book it. So as you're working through this agent, the next step would be then to automate the response procedure, and for this agent then to go in and create that calendar. So you can see it's a very iterative process of starting small and then creating a bigger, more dynamic agent as you keep going. But the key is to always start small. Okay. Okay, you guys, so that has processed through and it scanned my Gmail account. And let's see what it returned here. So it said that there was this one email where a client wasn't very happy. And then it told me, it said, everything else, there's nothing else really that has flagged them to take a look at. So when you're first starting to build out these agents, you're going to want to go and confirm that there's actually nothing else in there that's important. Because if there is something else in there that's important, that should be updated in your memory file and also your skill file. Okay. And it said a note on this one. It's both a meeting request and a complaint. So it says it's probably a higher stakes email. So let's get going on this. So I said, okay, great. Now go and scan my Google Calendar, which I also connected as an MCP, and you can see it here in the corner. And draft an email and save it in my drafts to send to the client and recommend a time. So now it's saying that it has actually done all of that, and that there should be a draft saved in my email now with a suggested time and an email response to the client. So remember how in the context folder we had the tone that they should speak in? That should be flowing through to our email that we're going to send back to that client. Okay, you guys, so the last thing I want to show you is how I built out the skill MD file. So all I asked after it kind of went through the entire process is I said, okay, great, now wrap this up into a skill MD file. One thing that I find a lot with these skill files is it sends like a longer document than what I necessarily think is needed to make these skill files. So really, to reduce these skill files, just ask it and be like, this is a little bit too long for what I want. Please make it as short and concise as necessary to achieve the objective. Now, when you're creating these skill MD files, there's a few things that are really important. Number one is to describe when it should be triggered. One thing to note is you can actually make this into a task where it scans through your emails every morning at 8 a.m. and creating that task would be what triggers it. But in this case, I just want to type in to the harness and say, please check my Gmails. We're just trying to keep it really simple right now. Like I said, you're going to have to improve this agent orchestration as you keep going. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is tell it the steps to achieve the output. And then the last thing here is you always want guardrails in place. So things that the agent should never do. So yeah, this is the basics of how to build an agent without going through too much details. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Give me any ideas if you have specific questions or things that you want me to cover. I'm here to teach you guys, and I'm learning as I go as well. So I look forward to it. Thanks, everyone.